the Rambler Network.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Digressor. I'm Trevor, and today I'm actually here with an old friend of mine, Vicky, and we're going to discuss. The topic is Braveheart, but we're mostly going to talk about Scottish history. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, nice to see you here.
Nice to see you too. I'm gonna try not to copy your accent. I have that habit where like I hear an accent, I copy it, and like I've talked to you so much. We were talking last night, and I was telling you like because of you, I can understand the Scottish accent, and most people I know can't.
Yeah, even like the English sometimes struggle with the accent. So you're not alone. Like, people aren't alone not understanding it.
I'm really hoping, I didn't think about that till just now. I'm hoping that doesn't really affect like the audience. Like I hope they understand you.
If I start talking fast, just tell me to slow down. I won't be offended.
Honestly, I probably won't even notice because I understand you.
Maybe play the recordings at like slower speed or something.
That's right. Podcast apps now have the ability to actually yesterday I was listening to a podcast and I had to leave for work in 2 hours. No, I had to leave for work in an hour, and I realized this episode I started was 2 hours, so I literally put it on two times speed. They kept talking like this and it was really fast, and I still not sure what he was talking about.
So basically, you're a pro at the Scottish accent then.
Yeah, I was telling a coworker earlier about what your that video you sent me about the voice activated thing, the elevator. 11. Please state the floor you're wanting to go to. 11. I remember that all these years later. Oh, anyway,
Uh,
this show is called The Digressor for a reason. We haven't even touched the subject yet. So for starters,
yeah, my bad.
I'll just start us off. So I grew up watching the movie Braveheart, and then Vicky and I met in 2011, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I know Scotland because Braveheart. I grew up watching Braveheart." And then she basically just gives this big eye roll, like, "Oh, that movie." And yeah, that movie is about as accurate as the movie 300 is, because actually, I think 300 is actually more accurate than Braveheart is. I actually don't think anything in that movie is accurate. In fact, the guy they paint as Braveheart isn't even Braveheart. Speaking of the guy they painted, they didn't even do the face paint. So like that movie is completely inaccurate.
Yeah, so there's like two main guys during the Wars of Scottish Independence. There's like William Wallace and Robert the Bruce. And I think the film kind of tried to merge them both into one.
Yeah, the movie
Into
made William Wallace into Braveheart and made Robert the Bruce into some sort of like traitor that backstabbed William Wallace, but that's not true. William Wallace wasn't even
yeah.
Braveheart.
So basically, Robert the Bruce was Braveheart, and he did have a rival that he murdered, which was, let me just make sure I get the name right. John, my writing's so bad in this, but John Common,
Is he
I
the
think
guy
it
he
is.
cut in half?
No, he stabbed him through the heart in a church, if my memory of
Who's the
my
guy he
history
cut in
lessons,
half?
and he never actually cut him in half. If I
Oh,
remember right from
okay.
history, he
So
stabbed him in a church.
Yeah, I was watching something because I wanted to kind of refresh my memory because I everything I watched in this video earlier it was a weird history video. The name of the channel is Weird History, and it was like was Robert De Bruce Braveheart or something like that, and it's telling a brief history of like his, how he crowned himself king and all that, and then he said something about like he cut someone in half. Like I remember that, but like I didn't remember who
I
it
mean,
was.
maybe it did at some point or other, but because there was plenty of battles. But um, like his rival John, I'm gonna make sure I've actually got the right name. John Comyn. John Comyn. He was his rival for the claim to the Scottish throne, and they met up in a church, if my memory's right, and he murdered him, which caused the Pope to basically renounce William Wallace, not William Wallace, Robert the Bruce,
No, you're doing it.
uh, and because, but then he was like, oh, what is the word? Where where he's where a crime against a person is taken away, not renounced. Oh well, he was absolved. That's it. He
I know
was
what you meant.
absolved by a pope in Glasgow, I think. So he was absolved of the crimes in Glasgow by another, like more local pope or priest. I am doing a very bad job at this.
I will tell you this. Even though you're stammering, this is still more accurate than the movie.
Okay. um, Robert the Bruce and William Wallace do have some overlap. William Wallace was a leader of the Scottish Independent Wars, and Robert the Bruce took part in them, even though Robert the Bruce was the one with the claim to the throne. He It was a year after William Wallace died that Robert the Bruce became King of Scotland. And William Wallace was hung, drawn, and quartered. The film's got that bit right.
In that video I told you that I watched, I think they said it was in like 1306 or something like that. Which I don't
Uh,
the
check.
it feels like something that would happen in like the triple digit years, not like something that feels too recent, but like I don't know.
1305, William Wallace died.
I was close.
Hung, drawn, and quartered in London. And 1306, Robert the Bruce became King of Scotland
Oh wait, no, I was right.
until 1329. So, yeah, and in the film, they had the Battle of Stirling Bridge, didn't they?
I don't know. I haven't seen it in a long time.
Or
After it's like I used to like the movie until I met you, and after you told me like the truth about history, I'm like I am never watching that movie again.
I ruined it for you.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's good for getting people interested in Scottish history.
In fact, yeah.
It's
Speaking of which,
just,
I was telling some coworkers today about that we're gonna do this, and I said just to kind of prime them up. I said, "What do you know about Scottish history?" And they said, "Oh, Braveheart." I was like, Nope. And I was telling them like because like the everyone knows about English history and culture, they don't know much about Scottish history and culture, and they
mm-hmm.
were like, I didn't think there was a difference. I'm like, oh my God. I told him about like
Yeah,
like the war for like Scottish independence and like what do you mean Scottish independence? I'm like, I think because I know you, I know like a lot more than the average person. I just assume everyone knows this stuff and like the Highlands and all that and Celtic and you're like you taught me all of that.
the amount of people who think that Scotland, England, the UK is all the same thing, along with Wales, Northern Ireland, and Britain. They think that all of them are just interchangeable. The
Yeah,
UK and Britain are sort of interchangeable, like depending on where you're referring to, because one includes Northern Ireland and one doesn't include Northern Ireland. So they're sort of interchangeable if you're referring to like Scotland, England, Wales.
I think somebody told me that one of the worst things you could say to someone who's British is saying that Ireland and Northern Ireland are the same thing. Like they're
No, they're not.
God, that's like a hate crime to say almost.
I think I might have, whilst I was saying it, a wee thing in my head was going, it's not Northern Ireland, it's Southern Ireland, it's not part of the UK.
Yeah, it'd be like saying North and South Korea are the same thing. It's like no, they're very different. Though now that I'm saying that out loud, like I'm not saying Northern Ireland is North Korea.
So Northern Ireland is part of the UK, Southern Ireland isn't.
It is its own independent thing.
Yeah. I just want to fact check to make sure things are right.
Yeah, I could tell.
uh, yes, the Southern Ireland's part of Britain. No, it's part of an independent country. Uh, Google is not helping very much.
Google's even confused.
So Great Britain refers to the geographical island consisting of England, Scotland, and Wales, whilst the United Kingdom includes Northern Ireland. So I got that wrong. Bad Vicky.
You've only lived there your whole life.
I
And how do you expect all the rest
know.
of us to know that?
In my defence, it's 4 o'clock in the morning here.
That is true. What's funny,
um,
it's darker in my video than it is on yours.
well, I'll not be able to show you the picture, but I will take a picture of outside to show you because we're having a discussion about lightness, how light it is outside.
So you're at the time of year where it doesn't get fully dark, it just goes a little dim. So
Yes.
yeah, it's like the sun's setting right now, so we probably have the same sky right now.
Well, I've sent you a picture
Oh,
on Facebook.
I will check that out. My phone loads. Oh, wow. Your sky looks like wait. Your sky looks like this.
yeah, basically.
That's kind of cool. That's as dark as it gets right now?
It gets darker, like at like 2 o'clock in the morning. It would have been
Oh,
basically
okay.
dark, but it starts to get lighter about three, half three ish, and that's obviously like just after 4. So yeah,
Yeah, you were telling me
Southern
last night
Hemisphere.
about that. You were telling me last night about that. I was like, I don't know if I want to move there now. And you were like, well, in the winter, it's like I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll have a winter home there.
Yeah, the winter it's a lot darker.
I do have a random question. So there's here in the US, there's a city there that I feel like everyone mispronounces, and I've heard it said two different ways. The people in Europe say it one way, and the people here say it another way, and of course, the people here are saying it wrong. But I just wanted you to clarify. If people here say Edinburgh, I said Edinburgh, and they were like, Edinburgh? No, no, what the heck? It's Edinburgh.
It's Edinburgh.
I knew it. Because like I think because like I have friends around the world, And especially I have mo most of my friends, most of my international friends are in the UK, so I know more about the UK and like how to pronounce things over there
Mhm.
than than the average US citizen. In fact, I don't know if you probably didn't notice because you're just so used to writing like that, but I actually use the British English when I type.
All right.
Like I spell
I
things
would.
'cause, like that's the actual English. The US feels like it wants to be special by changing how to spell everything. They take the U out of everything, and then it just up to the like color without the U is like you spelled that wrong.
I think the Americans condense their spellings or simplify it. They write things as they're pronounced, whereas English has a lot more other languages that formed the development of the language. So we've got some French, we've got some Scandinavian, we've got loads of other languages that contributed to making the language. So some of the spellings are foreign or come from foreign backgrounds. So it makes sense in the foreign language. But as the words have been kind of bashed together or changed over time, it doesn't make immediate sense unless you look back into how the word was formed.
Yeah, makes sense. Plus, English is a living language, is what they say. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, it's kind of like how it's even here, like in the US, like we don't all agree. Like, I've lived in Texas, I've lived in Ohio, and I've lived in California, and it's like three completely separate cultures with different
Mm-hmm.
words and phrases and spellings and stuff. So, like, it makes sense that like other countries would have different ways too. And it's really
Yeah.
interesting. Like, remember we had a Facebook group like 15, like almost 15, we had a Facebook group like 12 years ago about like accents and cultures of the world, and I don't know what happened to that.
It just kind of puttered out.
Yeah, like from
But see,
2011 huh?
even within the UK, there's different cultures from like London has a completely different culture from Glasgow, even though they're not all that different geographically. Like there's not a lot of space between them compared to like the US. There is a lot of differences. Like in Scotland, I can tell somebody that comes from Arbroath compared to Glasgow, compared to the Ayrshire, where I come from. Like it's just very clear in our accents and the words that we use, whereabouts we come from.
When Americans try to do a British accent, they just always sound like the Queen.
Yeah,
And
there's
but
no such thing as a British accent. There's
exactly.
accents
It's like
in Britain.
when someone says an American accent, I'm like, what does that mean? There's like, is it New York? Is it Southern? Is it Boston? Is it Chicago? So like, but like, I know there's different accents like there is here, and I work at where I work. You know where I work. I'm not gonna say it on the podcast. There's a lot of tourists from around the world, and a few months ago there was somebody I was like, "You're from Liverpool," and they're like, "How did you know?" I'm like, I can just tell."
Yeah,
Sound like the
I
Beatles.
just
I didn't
looked.
say that.
There is around 56 distinct regional variations of like accents in the UK.
So someone saying British accent is as confusing as someone saying American accent. Like, which one?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Like even London itself, there's like 3 or 4 different accents in London, depending which part of London you're in.
Wow. This sort of stuff like really fascinates me. Like you get like you're so used to like your whole regional area and then you learn about other things, and it's like, oh, this is more complex than I thought.
Yeah, it's amazing what like even like other countries like going across to like Europe. People refer like I've heard like a lot of Americans refer to Europe as a country, and it's like, well, it's a country in the sense that America is like a state.
Yeah,
Like,
because like I know a lot of Americans that see that Europe is like the U.S. is a big country comprised of a bunch of states, and so people
uh,
here think of Europe as a big country with states, and I know they don't see
yeah,
themselves that way, and you shouldn't tell them that.
no, no, like Europe is definitely different countries with their own governments.
Oh, I just got a notification. The meeting will end in 10 minutes, so we have nine
All right,
minutes and 40
okay.
seconds. So, I just want to say this real quick. It, kind of going back to the whole like regional thing, and I'm fascinated learning all that stuff. I was watching a video. It was like somebody had recorded an episode of Doctor Who off of BBC in the UK, and like they got the commercials and everything, and to them they're just like they just did like a full dump, and they're thinking, oh, this is just a Doctor Who episode, and I got some annoying commercials in the way. But like to everybody else in the world, it's like, oh, this is what their regional commercials look like, and like the station bumpers and stuff. And to them, they're like, oh, I just see this every day. It doesn't mean anything. But to everyone else, like, oh, this is cool. Like I never see this. Like the BBC, like the local BBC affiliate or whatever, and it's like it was like really fascinating, and like their local stores and like their adverts, like I don't know, like stuff like that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, I don't really watch TV,
Neither do
so I
I.
don't see any adverts.
I because everything ever since streaming, it's like who watches cable anymore? Like there's only like 4 million people that have cable. I'm like, there's even that much?
My partner, he told me that we've got two TVs in the house that we got over the past year, and he told me that like it was like the TV, you only ever put reading ambience on it. It's him that really watches the TV, and I'm like, well, yeah, kind of true.
Yeah, I have a PS5 and I stream everything on that, so like I don't need cable.
Yeah, so yeah, we don't have terrestrial TV, which is like just the basic TV that in the UK there's a TV license that you need to buy to actually watch TV.
See, that's the kind of thing that's like I was talking about. Like, we don't have that here, and so like that's probably an annoyance to you, but that's fascinating to me. Like, you do really go on. You're like, oh, it's this whole thing.
Yeah, so basically, it's just like the government asks you to pay a license fee of I think it's like £120 for the year, and
Wow.
that helps contribute towards like the BBC because the
Oh,
BBC doesn't have adverts, so they don't get funding from adverts. So it's like that money goes into making stuff for the BBC. So
well, I'm
anybody
confused.
who
Where did they
watches,
record that then? Because like they recorded an episode of Doctor Who and it did commercial breaks. So like that must have been on like, is there like a
they
spin-off?
they have adverts, but like that's for the BBC adverts. It's like other BBC programs. It's not actually like funded advertisements. It's not like Rice Krispies or Cocoa Pops or
Yeah, because like
toy
the one I
adverts or
saw
stuff
had
like that.
like the one
It's
I saw
actual
had like
content
local
adverts.
businesses and stuff.
So that's probably it's not STV in England. STV is like kind of the Scottish version of, is it ITV for England?
I've
I
heard of
think it might.
ITV.
So there's like other channels that do have the like get adverts, but the BBC channels don't have business adverts and stuff. It's just like kind of BBC and government adverts.
Oh. See,
So like
that's kind of mind blowing. Like, oh, it's the biggest TV channel. They don't have ads.
yeah, they've got breaks, but it's like mostly it's like for like in between the programs. I mean, it could be completely different since I last watched TV.
Probably. It wasn't a recent Doctor Who. It was like a Capaldi episode from like I don't know if you watch Doctor Who. Capaldi is so Capaldi was like 3 doctors ago, maybe 4 doctors ago. So it was a while ago.
His family actually comes from the local area that I'm from.
Really? That does make sense. He has I
Mm-hmm.
remember they were making a big deal because there was a Scottish doctor.
Uh-huh. One of my friends, she had she's actually met him because he shows up. Like her family had a party and his cousin came and brought him along with him.
Nice. It's like I met the doctor.
But this is before he became the
Oh,
doctor.
okay.
I don't think he'd probably show up at random house parties now,
No, probably not.
unannounced.
4 minutes left.
Do you have any wrap up stuff that you want to talk about or want me to talk about?
I don't know. See, like I don't know. Like, see, I was thinking like, oh, we'll start talking about Braveheart and then like go on to like Scottish history, and then like we end up talking about like the culture and like modern stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is actually more interesting than what I was anticipating. Just having a conversation, like that's why this show's called The Digressor. Well, for the most part, because it's not as structured as other podcasts, and I like that we could just kind of talk. At least we stayed relatively on topic.
Yeah, it's still Scottish related.
I'm probably still going to call the episode Braveheart, even though we only touched on Braveheart, which that
Clickbait.
I have done that on other episodes where I named it something and then like I like touched on the subject. Like the Aliens and Area 51 episode. I don't think I even mentioned Area 51.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I can imagine that. Like, did it? You need to go with the more clickbaity, like captions and stuff, don't you?
I try not to clickbait, but you know, sometimes it helps. If I
Yeah,
do
that's
ever, I've only done it a couple times, but like not like an extreme amount. Like I'll reference something that's mentioned in it, and I'll say, "Oh, we also talk about this." I don't say, "Oh, the whole episode is about this."
yeah. I mean, like, you're a podcaster, so you need to try and get views. So
I don't put ads on my podcast, so I don't monetize.
yeah, but you still want to get views.
Oh,
You
yeah,
don't want to
that's
do a
true.
podcast and have zero people listening to it.
I mean, I've been doing this in 2020 and I only recently started getting people watching and listening. So like it's for me it's more fun than like I'm not trying to become famous off of this. This is just like this is some fun I do. I put a lot of effort into it for something I just do for fun and don't have a whole lot of
It's a hobby.
it's a hobby.
Hobbies are usually money sinks.
Yeah, I have put a lot of money into this. Like this mic I showed you, as you can see, it's not a cheap mic.
It's very pretty.
It is very.
Yeah.
1 minute left. Any? Okay, that's gonna sound like a threat. Any last words?
Not really. I don't know. I don't do this sort of thing. I've gone all red now.
Yeah. This is the Vicky I remember. Anyway, now it just says less than a minute, so I have no idea the exact time. So just say some final words, and then I'll just like I'll like tack on some epilogue thing.
Okay, I'm Vicky from Scotland, the most random person ever. I don't know. I don't know. I just phase out. I don't say goodbyes.
The Rambler Network.